So, UFOs are real. Now what? Oh man, there's so many different avenues one can take when discussing the UFO topic. We can talk about cattle mutilations. We can talk about alien abductions. What about the government initiatives that are being taken place right now? Or even how academia is starting to take notice. Um, yeah, we can talk about so many different things when it comes to UFOs. But now that we know that they're real, we do have to educate ourselves. And I think the purpose of my video here today is to give people certain recommendations of things that you can kind of look into. I highly recommend looking into as many aspects of it as you can to get a better understanding of it. Now, it might be also a good idea to take a look at the history of it and know that this is something that has been occurring throughout mankind. This didn't just start in the 1940s. I mean, it's been around. I mean, you got cave paintings of grays, gray aliens, I should say, and of course, like little UFOs. You have Renaissance paintings of. Um, there was a one I recall. It had a bunch of different things in the sky, and one can only describe them as UFOs. So there's many different avenues you can take as far as this topic goes. Now, what I'd like to do is kind of cover the areas that I think are significant. As far as a historical context goes, I think it's important to take note of Kenneth Arnold, who during his time in 1942, or I'm sorry, 1947, the term UFO was coined after his testimony because what he saw in the sky, although it didn't necessarily resemble a flying saucer, he said that they behaved as a saucer would if you were to throw it or whatnot. Um, then, of course, you have the battle over Los Angeles in 1942. That one was the U.S. military responding to UAPs in the sky, and they started shooting artillery rounds at them, I should say, and unsuccessful attempts to bring them down. So this is more or less where the U.S. military panicked and didn't do a good job here. Then, of course, you got the Roswell incident of 1947. At some point within those 5 years, I believe that they learned um, how to bring down these craft, and I truly believe that the Roswell incident was the U.S. military's attempt to bring down a craft, and it was actually successful this time. Then you have, of course, the Malmstrom incident, the Air Force Base of 1967. I'll show you a clip of um, Robert Salas, who was one of the commanding officers at the time.
I was a missile launch officer at Malmstrom Air Force Base. We had 10 missiles that we were monitoring. And on March 24th, 1967, I get a call from the topside guard saying that he's seeing a glowing red object hovering outside the front gate. Then my missiles started shutting down. I lost all 10 nuclear missiles while this object was still up above us.
Of course, can't forget about the Phoenix Lights incident of 1997, um, where hundreds, if not thousands, of people saw lights in the sky and what they described to be in a triangle formation. Let's just leave it at that. Moving forward to 2004, the USS Nimitz. This is where various Navy and Air Force personnel got to witness the Tic Tacs and other strange objects. Fast forward one more year. In 2005, the O'Hare incident in the Chicago O'Hare Airport. I recall this incident because I live in the Chicago area and I see airplanes all the time. And I remember as a child thinking that we were seeing UFOs out there, and we had me and two of my friends went up to a neighbor who was an older fellow, and we told him, "Look, UFOs," and he had to tell us straight up, "Those aren't UFOs. Those are airplanes coming from the O'Hare Airport." So that brings that to mind for some reason. And in this particular case, the O'Hare Airport incident, there was a UFO seen near a certain terminal. Next thing you know, it shoots up into the sky and it creates a hole inside of a cloud. So imagine that, an object traveling so fast in one direction that it makes a hole in the cloud and it stays like that for several minutes or whatever. Now, this particular case was studied by so many people. One of the people that studied it was from an organization called NARCAP, which is the National Aeronautics Reporting of Phenomenon. I don't know the exact term here, but Richard Haynes, he's one of them, as well as Ted Rowe. These two gentlemen have put a lot of data out there as far as UFOs goes, UAP. So I highly recommend people take a look at their work. Go to NARCAP. I'll have all this in the links. I'm sorry, in the description, I'll have all the links to pretty much a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about today. So then, after 2005, there was a lot that went on. Um, but let's go straight into the 2017 New York Times article. After this, you had Lou Elizondo, who came out and gave his testimony about the ATIP program that he was in charge of for a certain amount of time. And of course, we can't forget talking about Harry Reid, who secured 20,000, no, $22 million to help run this program. People say it's called ATIP, others say it's OSAP. It's possible they were both the same thing. I personally don't know. Media wants to say it's ATIP, others want to say it's OSAP. All I remember is that OSAP was a part of um, the Bigelow Aerospace attempt to try to learn about UFOs. So then they worked together with the government, creating OSAP, and then, but there's probably more to that than what we know, which is why we should be studying it and getting to know, learning more about this. So yeah, you got the historical events that led us to today, and then of course there's other aspects to the UFO phenomenon that you can study, such as abduction stories. Hey, why not learn about those? As far as abduction stories, where can you start? Well, there's the famous Betty and Barney Hill story. I would love to do a whole video just on that, but I highly urge everyone to check it out for yourselves. There was supposed to be a movie in recent years, but it was never put together. Um, then, of course, there's the Travis Walton story. Now, this story, I'm going to leave a link in the description of his one of his latest interviews by Third Phase of Moon. And Travis Walton was more or less abducted while working out in the woods with his friends slash coworkers. And well, there's this famous clip, and in this clip, of course, it was a little bit exaggerated by Hollywood. Another area you can check out are cattle mutilations. And cattle mutilations are almost always um, related, if not followed by some sort of UAP UFO event. So several witnesses will describe seeing orbs, and the person who's put probably the most work into cattle mutilations and studying them and going all over the world is Linda Moulton Howe. She's even wrote several books on cattle mutilations, and so I highly urge you to check out her stuff. check out her books. And she has a podcast right now. I'll have that in the link as well. Let's see. Then you have Crop Circles.
Oliver's Castle, Wiltshire, 1989.
There's a couple of lights down there somewhere.
This controversial film appears to show strange objects hovering above a cornfield. Below, complex circle formations appear.
Crop circles have been a phenomenon for several decades, and there have been people who have hoaxed them. But there's a difference between the hoaxed ones and the real ones, and it's pretty much how they're made. So another area you can check out are something that's very popular, and that's checking out UFO sightings. And some good sources for UFO sightings that are collected by these are two sources I like to check out. One of them is Third Phase of Moon, which I'll have in the link. They compile footage from people from all over the world. People send them footage, regular civilians and or military, and they vet the footage and post it. Pretty simple. This has been going on. They've been doing this for close to 15 years now. And let's see, you got Jaime Musan as well. He's from South America, and he always has new footage from all over South America, all over the world as well.
Ahora lo importante es iniciar comunicación con estas inteligencias.
So those are a couple areas you can also check out as far as the UFO UAP phenomenon. Another thing would be that I would recommend is get familiar with the different acronyms. You got UFO, UAP, NHI, which is a recent one, because we don't really want to call them aliens or ET anymore, because those two words have stigmas attached to them. And I think that's why they moved from UFO to UAP. So you got Arrow, NARCAP, ATIP, OSAP, FOIA. These are all, there's various other acronyms that people reference, but yeah, get used to the acronyms. Also, check out the key people that are involved in this phenomenon. The list goes on and on as far as the names, but here are some names. Bob Lazar. He was one of the most famous whistleblowers of all time as far as the UAP phenomenon goes. And he came out, I want to say like in the late 80s, early 90s. George Knapp was the one who introduced him to the world. And he talked about his work with doing his part in the reverse engineering aspect of UFOs.
Well, there's no action-reaction system to it. There's no, like in a jet engine, exhaust gas being thrown out, no propeller, no noise. It's just, for all intents and purposes, magic.
And this is something that in 2023, we are barely starting to touch. And you got David Grush, who recently came out and said, yeah, you know what? They are reverse engineering, and they've been doing it for a while. So maybe everything that Bob Lazar was in fact true. I think that a lot of people owe him more than just an apology. You got different politicians like Senator Gillibrand, Senator Rubio, who helped put together all the amendments and the things in the background so they can get Arrow started. You got Congressman Tim Burchett, who's been very vocal as far as the UAP topic and how we should focus on that more. And he's been talking about reverse engineering, how it's true. It has been an issue, the secrecy, I should say, and people have gotten hurt, threatened, and these projects are illegal. You got Dr. Stephen Greer, who's been leading the Disclosure Project for over 20 years, and he's been trying to get the disclosure going since then, leading the 2001 National Press Club event. And I think it was 2012, there was the citizens hearing, the citizens disclosure hearing or something like that. And then just last week, he had another National Press Club event with several military witnesses. Check out my video on that, or check out the original. Then you got Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the current head of ARROW, and he is a lot of people don't have trust in what he's saying, but I think he personally doesn't have the clearance, which is why he's not able to disclose, divulge, or even investigate any further than the surface level that he's at right now.
I should also state clearly for the record that in our research, ARROW has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics.
So those are some key people. And if you're into science or if you like data numbers, you can check out the work of Harvard professor Avi Loeb, who's leading the current Galileo project. You got Gary Nolan, who's done several studies at Stanford. And then, of course, you got the NASA UAP study, which has 16 NASA scientists working to collect as much data as they can. They're actually working with ARROW now. You also have Stanton Friedman. This man has been around. He's been around since 60s. I want to say 1960s. He was a rocket scientist, ufologist, probably the king of ufology, and he unfortunately passed away. I think it was 2019. But his efforts are not forgotten, and his work is still being studied today by people all over the world. You got Jacques Vallée, another scientist, I believe, who has studied the phenomenon and actually looked into the consciousness aspect of it, which is another interesting area that if you are new to this subject, you can kind of look into. And then, of course, you got Skinwalker Ranch, the Skinwalker Ranch team, led by Brandon Fugel, and their head scientist, who used to be the head scientist at ATIP, Dr. Travis Taylor. These folks are studying the phenomena. They're pretty much taken over after Robert Bigelow and Bigelow Aerospace. After they stopped working at the Skinwalker Ranch and studying it, they sold the land off to Brandon Fugel, who started the Skinwalker Ranch team, and now they're up to, I think, season 3, or I forget what season they're on as far as the Skinwalker Ranch. But yeah, feel free to check out that. It's an awesome show. They're collecting a lot of data there as well. There's another aspect of the UAP phenomenon that I forgot to mention earlier, and it's led by Dr. Greer, and he coined the term CE5, which there's the it's human-initiated contact through meditation. The important thing to understand about the UAP subject, UFO subject, is the technology and how the technology can be used to help humanity. We're talking about the end of fossil fuels. So imagine a world where we don't have to fight wars just to secure oil, or a world where we don't have to mine coal and have people die of lung cancer because they've been mining coal all their lives, or a world where we don't have to use nuclear technology anymore, nuclear power to power the electrical grid. Imagine the end of poverty. Imagine cleaning up our oceans and removing pollution out of our waters, making it safe for everyone all over the world to drink it, even people in desert areas. So these are some of the possibilities with the technology. And some might argue that this the release of the technology and the acknowledgement of such intelligent beings out there, this fact or whatnot, revelation, whatever you want to call it, can potentially help our human development, our evolution into our next stage. That being making us more socially evolved, spiritually evolved, and able to have a conversation with people who are different than us without getting into arguments or without getting into fights. Basically, like moving on to the next stage of development. What's wrong with that, really? So, when it comes to the UAP topic, now that we know that it's all real, there's so many different areas you can study and you can research. I highly recommend everyone to check out the different podcasts out there, such as Disclosure Team, Weaponized with Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. You got Ryan Graves, the former Air Force pilot, with his Merged podcast, as well as Chris Lato, another Air Force pilot with Lato Files. These, as well as many, many others, are out there just trying to spread the truth and trying to educate others as far as what's going on with the latest and greatest news regarding UAP. So whether it's a sighting, whether it's government initiatives, whatever is going on as far as the UAP topic, um, just know that there are other people out there who are trying to cover this information. The regular press / media isn't yet ready for it. Who knows? Maybe the conspiracies of them being controlled by a certain entity is true. Who knows? Well, we know now that reverse engineering is true, so why couldn't that be true? I highly encourage everyone out there to explore these topics and these areas because it's only going to give us a better understanding of what's really going on with UAPs, UFOs, extraterrestrial beings, interdimensionals, or non human intelligences and their technologies, and of course, how they can help humanity move forward to the next stage of evolution. So, with that being said, thank you very much for checking this out. I hope I kept it at a decent length as far as the video goes. Now, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. That way, you can stay tuned into everything that's going on with the UAP subject. Check out the links that I have provided in the description. And yeah, let's see where this takes us next. Thank you very much.